Hey, good morning everyone, TJ here. Today we're out at Copper, got a little bit of fresh snow, and we're testing the Weston Hatchet Snowboard. Let's get into it. All right, real quick for reference, I'm 5'10", I weigh around 155 pounds, and we're riding the Hatchet in a 152. Now the Hatchet is like an all mountain powder twinish kind of snowboard on the Weston lineup. And I say twinish because it does have a slightly directional outline. You're gonna get a little bit more nose up front outside the contact points, and a slight taper as well. It's got about 9 millimeters of taper, but the stance is centered in the side cut, so it should ride very much like a twin, but it's got some benefits to help you out in soft snow. So aside from those directional features, this board is designed to be ridden a little bit shorter because it is very wide. So at a 152, you're gonna find a 27.3 centimeter waist. And like I said, that is intended to provide more surface area to help this board float in powder and give you that kind of twin style, freestyle performance in soft snow. But it's also going to be a great benefit if you happen to have a larger boot size and you're looking for just a really wide twin that can accommodate like a size 12, 13 or bigger boot and help eliminate that heel or toe drag. So if you're in that boat, the Hatchet's got a nice little benefit for you there with that width. This thing does have a camber dominant profile. You're gonna find positive camber running through the main body of the snowboard to just outside the inserts. And then it has a little bit of reverse camber in the nose and tail. So it should come through with that traditional camber feel, a little bit more powerful, a little bit more energetic, but then you have that reverse camber in the tips to give you a further benefit in soft snow and work with those other directional features and that width. This board does have a good bit of carbon built into it as well. You're gonna find 2 carbon stringers running down the entire length of the snowboard from tip to tail, with a carbon weave built into the layup running through the camber section of the snowboard. So there's quite a bit of carbon in here that's gonna help keep the board lightweight, but amplify the energy, pop, and snap you're gonna find in this thing. I'm interested to see how this feels out there. And speaking of being lightweight, that was something that I noticed right away picking up this snowboard. They packed as much Polonia into the core as they could in this thing, which is like more premium wood that's known for its lightweight properties. And I think that is noticeable with this snowboard. It's always nice to see that. Just give it a little bit more of a maneuverable feel underfoot. Just keep it a little lighter on your feet there. Other than that, you're gonna get Weston's caster bean based rugged nylon top sheet. So it has a bit of a textured top sheet on here that should act like a little bit of a stomp pad, but is also gonna help snow from sticking to the top sheet as well, which is gonna be nice on those soft snow days. And you're also gonna find a sintered base in the snowboard, which is a higher end base material that's harder and more durable compared to an extruded base. Of course, you wanna make sure to wax it regularly to maintain a nice fast feel out here, but that's always nice to see in a more premium construction. Last couple things I wanna mention here real quick is there are aluminum skid plates in both the tip and the tail for a little bit more durability to protect this interesting tip shape you're gonna find here on the Hatchet. And this particular snowboard is actually a limited graphic from John Fellows. So I think that's worth calling out here as well if you're interested in the graphic we have here today. So that's it for a quick tech breakdown. Appreciate you guys. We're gonna get these laps going and we'll check back in with some feedback on how it feels a little bit later. All right, y'all, let's start off talking about the overall flex and feel you're gonna find here with the Weston Hatchet. So I found the flex to be right around a mid flex, both lengthwise and torsionally. Pretty solid, middle of the road, all mountain flex. Maybe just a hair on the stiffer side of medium, but definitely has some good stability. And I enjoyed the camber in the profile as well. I think this board does come through with some good pop as well. But the reverse camber in the tips is very noticeable around the resort. I think it gives the board a pretty playful, buttery feel when you're trying to get flex out of it. Those tips give you way more leverage leaning into the nose or tail, so we'll give up a pretty good looking press without having to work too hard for it. I think it gives it a much looser feel as well. Took actually a few laps to get used to that. And another thing you'll notice is when I'm just like sitting in a tail press on this thing, and you start to really lean into it and get that taller press where you're like actually loading tension in the snowboard, you'll notice that my back foot is actually lifted off the ground, which I think is a big tell for how much stability or how stiff a board is. So this board does load pretty good tension. It holds good potential energy and still delivers some decent pop despite having a pretty significant rocker in the profile. I took this board through the terrain park as well, and it was a little bit of a weird day, the day that we were out there filming, so I kept it pretty mellow, but I definitely want to talk about how the board felt and you know, kind of the vibe you're going to get in there approaching different features. So I will say, you know, this board is super wide, so that width is going to be very noticeable just in general anywhere that you take it. It really dominates the character of the snowboard. And in the terrain park, you know, when you're approaching features, especially jibs, it's nice to have a nice maneuverable feel to be able to do little micro adjustments and just get set up just right where things are feeling good when you're about to pop into your trick. And I think that's a little bit more difficult with the width. It just feels a little bit more sluggish. It takes more effort to get the board on edge. So not as friendly on the jibs as something more freestyle specific. You can definitely still jib it. You know, I think these wide boards do lock into features really well, which is nice for jibs. You can press this thing, but just not going to be as cozy on the approach, especially if you're creeping up a little bit slower. But does have a great feel on jumps. I think that with the width, it really puts a lot of power to the edges because you just have to put a little bit more into it to get it up on edge. And that gives you a really nice platform to pop off of. So I think that's a pretty good feel on jumps, and you know, has stability to step up to the medium or even the large line if that's something that you're into. But I would say, you know, just generally with the design and what Weston made this board for, it's probably going to be more fun hunting down natty features or trying to get freestyle-y in powder. But you can still have a lot of fun in the terrain park. It rides switch comfortably, so that's not really an issue. The biggest thing, since it is a fairly twinish snowboard, is just the width that you're gonna have to get used to. Let's talk about the carving and resort experience on the Hatchet as well. This is one of the biggest highlights for me on this snowboard. I think it is a ton of fun exploring the resort and getting this board on edge. Two specs I'm gonna throw out there for you are the waist width and side cut. So at size 152, you're gonna get a 27.3 centimeter waist. Massive waist width, definitely a very dominant characteristic in the overall feel of the board, and really enhances the carving experience in my opinion. This, if you've never had a chance to carve a board with this much width, it is just a game changer. It's completely different from like a regular width, more freestyle board. Also at this size, you're gonna get a 7.1 meter side cut, so that's a little bit tighter, gonna throw you into slightly more aggressive carves naturally and just give you a nice dynamic carving experience. And the board can really hold on to those carves as well, which is great. It has a lot of precision and really solid, confident edge hold. This is definitely a solid choice to consider if you do run those larger boot sizes. I'm talking like 12, 13, even 14 plus. If you really want to try to eliminate that heel and toe drag, or that's something you've struggled with, a board with this width is going to be awesome. But just generally for carving, it does take more effort to get it on edge. So once you're in your carve, it's just super locked in. You feel a lot of precision, and it's a board you can really trust. It's very confident on edge, something that's going to be able to power through chundery variable situations comfortably, and just a solid choice for all around exploring around the resort. This is going to be a very capable one for you. That rocker blend does make it a little bit easier to get into your carves and help you know, make it that width a little bit easier to manage. But overall, very strong carver, holds a very good edge, and just a lot of fun for ripping turns. But overall, who is the Weston Hatchet for? So I would say this is definitely a board for the all mountain focused rider, those of you that like getting out and just exploring resorts, checking out all the various types of terrain, and want something that is confident enough to stay solid under your feet, even if you take it into more treacherous zones. Of course, looking for something with this like powder twinish vibe, a lot of width, a lot of surface area, but still has a little bit of playfulness to it, something you can butter around with, ride with a more freestyle approach and still have a good time. But at the end of the day, you're looking to get out there and cover some ground. So if that sounds like you, check out the Weston Hatchet. Definitely an interesting one that's gonna be pretty capable in really any snow condition around the resort. I'm gonna have it linked down below this video if you wanna read more about it. Let me know what you think in the comments. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for watching. Drop a like if you got some value. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you in a new one next time.